Alongside Miranda Khan, J.D. Hayworth back with you now on Newsmax Prime. Parts of Jerusalem sealed off tonight as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tries to stop waves of violence.
Earlier today, Israel set up checkpoints in Palestinian areas near East Jerusalem to stop that surge of violence. In recent weeks, at least 7 Israelis were murdered by Palestinians. The clashes are raising all sorts of fears that there could be another uprising.
For more, let's welcome in from Newsmax Washington, former United States Congressman, my old congressional colleague, Pete Hoekstra of Michigan, who's the Shillman Senior Fellow for the Investigative Project on Terrorism. Pete, also the author of the new book, Architects of Disaster, The Destruction of Libya. Pete, as you join us tonight, we get word that Israeli security forces shot another man by the Damascus gates today, apparently someone suspected of being involved in a stabbing. This ratcheting up of violence, will it lead to another Israel-Gaza conflict like we saw last year?
Well, I can tell you, J.D., with a lot of the contacts that I have in Israel, the Israeli security services, Israeli intelligence, they're very concerned about this uptick in violence. They're very concerned about what's happening with social media. And, of course, we all know that, right now Israel feels pretty much isolated in the world, and its enemies, Hamas, and other radical jihadist groups, they feel empowered because they've been successful in Libya. They've been successful in Syria. The United States is cutting deals with Iran. So, they're very concerned that in this type of environment, the radical jihadists see this as an opportunity, and they see weakness, and they're going to take this and they're going to now ratchet up the pressure on Israel. I think it's a tinderbox.
Netanyahu says he wants peace. What is it going to take for this region to finally see it?
For peace in the region, what it needs is American leadership. I mean, the whole area now is chaos wherever you look, whether you look in Yemen, whether you look in Egypt, whether you look in Libya, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Turkey. The area is in chaos because there's a vacuum, because America pulled out and didn't identify its strategic interest and didn't have a strategy for the region.
Pete, we've got about 2 minutes left, so with that time, let's talk some about your new book. In it, you say President Obama's failed foreign policy left Libya a terrorist training site. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. What this president did, he changed America's foreign policy, and I think too many people haven't recognized this. He has aligned America with radical jihadist interests. He did that with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. He did that with the radical jihadists who overthrew Gaddafi. And the result is where we had an island of stability in Libya, where Gaddafi turned over his nuclear program. He fought terrorist elements with us. He was helping us, and we threw that all out the window, and it is now exporting weapons and manpower to northern Africa and to Syria. Many of the weapons and fighters that were exported to Syria became the core group of what we now know as ISIS.
With only a few seconds remaining, can the conflict in Libya, in your opinion, be fixed?
Well, at this point in time, it's going to be fixed one of these days. Either the radical jihadists will take over the government and bring some kind of order, an order that we won't like, or it will stay a failed state for a period of time. But whatever the path in Libya is, we had a successful strategy. That was thrown out the window. Putting Libya back together again is going to be very, very difficult, and is going to take time.
Pete Hoekstra, my old congressional colleague, one-time chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, now the author of the new book, Architects of Disaster, The Destruction of Libya. Pete, as always, thanks for your time here on Newsmax Prime. We want to hear what you have to say about the unrest in the Mideast, and here's how you can fill us in on your feelings. Just go to newsmaxtv.com/comments. Still to come, executive action, the Second Amendment, gun control, and the NRA response. Ellis Hinnikin and Ford O'Connell join us to debate that when Newsmax Prime continues here on Newsmax TV.